I'm not used to seeing you up this early. Guessing Neely kicked you out of the stables?
She did.
Huh?
She's got a jealous streak and caught me spending time with another dragon. But it wasn't even like that.
What's good, anime enthusiasts? Welcome to another episode for Sinister to be a Hero. Now we got a lot of investigation, a lot of, not subterfuge, but it does involve a little sleuthing, a little expertise from Dotta, and we get to learn a little bit more about Dotta. We finally get to see Dotta's sentencing, and we get to see how that goes, why he's doing it, and revealing just a little bit more about what's going on behind the curtain, as well as get a little bit more Frenchie from last episode. Xylo's fiance, Kivia, gets another cute moment, and funny enough, there's only one scene with Teoritta. One scene. That's it. It's only there for like less than 5 seconds, and that's it. She's just not there. It's only an episode for Xylo and the others as they try to figure out what's going on within the city. Who is Boojum and why, what happened to their squad. And that is where we begin this episode. Episode begins with the aftermath of the encounter with Boojum and Shiji. And Kivia is giving a report, and you see the scenes of everything that's happening. But it slowly transitions to her actually giving the report to the officers and Xylo and one other person in the meeting room. And she's saying that the assassination attempt, although it was thwarted, it was executed flawlessly. And one of the officers were like, are you suggesting that there's a traitor among us? And there's an argument going on. I was like, okay, if there's a traitor among us, should we not have a personal trusted guard for Teoritta? And also that gets shot down by Xylo, because that sounds a little too good to be true, a little too suspicious to have the quote-unquote trusted near Teoritta, the most important person. So Xylo suggests, okay, let's contact the 12th Order of Holy Knights because they specialize in intelligence. And there's argument, well, they don't show themselves in public. And it goes back and forth. All the while, the important person that's with them is High Priest Marlin. That's Kivia's uncle. And he himself says that, it's important to determine who we can trust. But there isn't enough evidence, or there isn't enough action for the intelligence team to step in. And even Kivia, who interviewed the prisoners and whoever they took in, they didn't have any useful information. If only they could get the assassins, but they didn't. All they got were the adventurers. And so Xylo raises his hand and asserts himself, and he wants to, give his opinion, even though that he is the quote unquote the least reputable person, the person who has the least the less opinion. You shouldn't listen to him because he's a hero. Marlin sees that and he's like, Kivia, you should be like him. He likes Xylo's assertiveness. He likes Xylo speaking up, and Xylo is allowed to speak, and his suggestion is, let's check out the Adventurers Middleman Agency, the Guild. And so we get a next scene cut to the team. They're poring over the papers and they're looking things up, and they pick out who they want to target. It's Lidio Sodric, the Adventurers Guild's representative. And he's got a little backstory, a little history about his family starting a guild and taking it from pirates. But after they settled on, okay, they got to find out where Lidio Sodric is. Xylo walks out of the place and Venetum stops him. And he's asking how everything went. And throughout this conversation, Venetum is worried about something, but he can't find the words or land on something substantial. It's a gut feeling he has. And even though Xylo says, oh, you need some pointers about one of the officer ladies, and Venetum's like, no, it's not that, it's something. He can't put his finger on it. So Venetum is soul reading something that's going on possibly with this whole assassination thing. between Boojum's Shiji and Lidio, who we cut to as they're debriefing on things that happen, and Shijibaru, through the most of it, she wants to get paid more because Boojum was a little lackluster during it, and she didn't know about the Dragoon coming in, and ultimately she is going to hire her own people, experts, and she asked for a raise. It's a little bit of comedy with Boojum stepping in as well as he's reading poetry with the foil to Xylo. And while Lidio Sadric has, the connections and the money to get them to act, there's also this girl that's nearby, and she regards Lidio as her brother. We'll get back to her in a moment. And of course, this is the only scene that you see Teoritta. She's sleeping. That's it. Next morning, Xylo is getting his morning breakfast or brunch, whatever time of day it is for them. And he sits at the table with a slightly depressed Jace as he's in the dragon house for looking at another dragon. And Neely is, I guess, not understandably jealous, but that relationship kind of thing. And the sober Dotta. Now this whole scene is about Xylo recruiting Dotta for the mission. But I do want to highlight the nice storyboarding and the visuals going on in the background. They made the scene alive and they make it feel like time was passing. How do they do that? Well, normally in an anime, when you have a group that's talking, you switch between all the characters that are talking and doing the dialogue. That's fine and all. And if they crack a joke or two or they do some kind of anime trope, you focus on them. But because they're in an enclosed space and there are their own scenes of people within the space that they are, they could show those characters doing something. So rather than stills, you get to see the other holy knights, they're eating, they're talking, you get to hear their conversations. And because they're in this enclosed space, they're actually, quote unquote, part of the scene and they're part of the conversation. So one cool way that I really like that made it feel alive is that when Dotta mentions Sav, his mangled arm, those two guys that are off a table away, they stop eating and they look at their own arm wait, what, mangled arm? It's that nice attention to detail. And they even show the cook and one other dude that is talking as well, them having a conversation, animating them moving and talking as well. That's amazing. We don't have to see Jace, Xylo, and Dotta for that whole entire sequence. You can just show other things and give us something new to look at, something new to see, and you can actually add more comedy or seriousness to it using other characters. That's cool. That's a nice highlight I wanted to do. Thumbs up. So after that, once Dotta is now official on the team, they got to come up with a plan, and the plan is to infiltrate the Adventurers Guild with Xylo and Kivia disguised. And at this point, Xylo, it's another cute scene like last episode where Xylo compliments Kivia and Kivia gets blushing. But they need to figure out, okay, so our plan is to infiltrate the guild. We're going in disguised. We need to figure out a feasible and reasonable way to get in, or a feasible job to give them, and it needs to be convincing. And they go through some things, and Dotta suggests, well, why don't you get a contract to kill a noble, because Kivia is a noblewoman and Xylo is her secret lover. And this noblewoman wants that noble dead for some reason. And so after that suggestion, we get to see Dotta's sentencing. Oh, yes. So he is in the same area where Xylo was. He's got the judge with the veiled judge looking down on him. And it begins. So Dotta has 1,000 crimes on record, but he's being trialed for one particular specific crime, And that crime is escaping the castle dungeon where he was being kept and stealing a dragon. That's it. And Dotta's like, wait, hold on, that's weird. Isn't somebody else supposed to be part of this crime? And he name drops the Crown Prince. And Dotta says that, hey, the Crown Prince, the little boy, he asked me to save him himself. The Crown Prince was locked up in a castle and he ran away. And then the judge denies Dotta's words, saying his assertions are false. What Crown Prince? We didn't hear anything about that. And then Dotta argues against him, saying like, yeah, hey, I definitely ran into the first prince of the Fairy Kingdom during my jail raid. He's 10 years old. He was scared out of his wits. And hey, the prince was saying that the royal family was acting strange. The king has been out of sorts for a long time. And just as he was about to allege something about the chancellor, he gets interrupted by the judge. And then Dotta's like, no. He keeps going. It's like, yo, something must be wrong. If the prince is asking a thief like me for help, something ain't right. Yo, help the prince. Judge ain't having it. Judge don't care. Judge denies everything else. And the others next to the judge, he was like, I think the death penalty is appropriate for this boy. And the judge was like, yeah, I agree. But a more serious sentence has been approved. It was suggested by the Central Noble Alliance. Hey, Dotta, you're sentenced to be a hero. See ya. So, isn't that interesting? So now, putting everything together with the other ones, now we know that whoever is with the Demon Blight, the sympathizers, they don't want people knowing that they have infiltrated even farther within the royal family. They got their clutches. They might as well be puppeteering everything. But we cut back to Dotta overlooking the city, and he's like scoping out the guild from afar, looking at things. And then we cut to Xylo and Kivia walking the streets. And then this time, we get to learn a little bit more about Kivia and Xylo, because Xylo wonders, yo, Kivia, why'd you join the military? And Kivia gives us a spiel. Her mother and father were priests, and they carried out their duties for the temple, and they earned various quote-unquote benefits in return, meaning that they just cashed out on their influence and faith, and they weren't above board in the ways of quote-unquote donations, aka corruption. Very simple, very easy. And Kivia hated that aspect about her parents, and she wanted to go to the military to make her own way. And her uncle, High Priest Marlin, he brought her first sword, and her uncle supported Kivia's endeavors. That's why Kivia looks up to High Priest Marlin. Cool. So after that, we get a nice little spiel. Dotta joins up with them, and he gives a rundown of what he saw outside the guild. They got security guards, and they got children assassins. Oh boy, that's what that little girl was, an assassin. And we get a little bit more about the plan. It's simple, while Xylo and Kivia get to work, Dotta's supposed to kidnap Lydia. Speaking of child assassins, we see the children assassins, and they're reporting to Sodric, and they're letting him know what's up. So Sodric already knows what's gonna happen, and he's making preparations. He tells the kids, yo, bring Boojum and get Shiji. It's about to go down. And now we finally get to know Sodric's motivation. Why is he doing this? Why is he teaming up with the Demon Blight and all the good stuff? Why is he doing all this? It's all for his family. That's it. It's just for his family. I wish I could know a little bit more, but I'll take it. So his hands are kind of tied. Maybe he's seen some things behind the curtain that he's, I don't know, maybe the Demon Blight actually has some merit to it. I don't know. Hey, family. Woo. Who really knows? Until we get some more information, we get to see another scene. But after that, we get into the final stretch a bit. So Xylo and Kivia, they roll up to the guild, and they make their request. It's a bit of a comical scene as Kivia is like very aggressive in her assertion on the contract, and Xylo sort of salvages it, but they're not really doing the best, and they're creating more suspicion than anything. And they get saved by Frenchie. Hi. And they go up into a room in the guild, and they find both sides finally get divulge what are they doing. And while they're doing that, it's also a little bit comical as Xylo gets bullied by his fiance and Kivia, as both of them just rip into Xylo on how he is as a guy in his mental state. That's fine, that's funny. And of course, while they're doing this, the other side, the child assassins and the Avengers of the Guild, they're moving, they're making plans. They want to sneak in, they want to body them. But of course, when the child assassin knocks on the door to get their attention, it goes down. And they fight. The child assassins and the guild members, they're getting bodied. It's Xylo, it's a hero, it's Kivia, the captain of the Teoritta Knights. It's Frenchie. They're the jocks. They're the mooks. They ain't doing nothing. They're here to make Xylo and the others look good. And it's a nice fight scene. Xylo uppercuts a kid. And he throws an exploding dagger into one guy. It's nice. It's fun. I enjoyed the little fight scenes that they got going on. But that is it. That is it for the episode. So can't wait for the next episode. Can't wait to see how Boojum fights for real. Also getting Shiji Bayu into the fight as well. And I kind of want to see Dotta fight as well. Oh, and as well, we got Frenchie as well. She's part of it as well. So we got a nice, looking good. We got a nice few fight scenes to look forward to. So that's what I'm excited for. And also, of course, that nice little detail that we got more of, like, that corruption is already at the royal family. Like, the Demon Blights, they're deep in there. So we'll see what comes of that as well. But other than that, let me know what y'all think about the episode in the comments below, or let me know what y'all think about what the future may entail for Xylo and the others, as this whole behind the curtain story is being told while they're just dealing with everything up front. If nothing else, I hope all of you have a good day, night, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. And I hope your day is just a little bit better than it already is. With that, we'll catch y'all in the next episode. Peace.